Hi guys. So for the prenatal class today, I thought that we could talk about your breastfeeding plan, how to create one, where to find resources that can kind of help you choose what to put on your breastfeeding plan, and then how to share that breastfeeding plan with your nurses, doctors, and so forth. Now, it might seem like something new to you. Most people always have a birth plan, but they've never really thought of a breastfeeding plan. But it is always good to just like a birth plan can help others prepare, and help you know what you want. It gives the nurses, the doctors, family members, um, your plans without you having to necessarily feel well enough to enforce them. So when you have a plan set up, family members can help enforce those the things that you wanted in your plan, as well as the doctor knows ahead of time what you want, and the doctor can be sure to make sure that you get what you want. And then it's also really good to share it with your doctor, because you might find out if your doctor is against certain things, and to kind of get an idea of how your doctor feels about the choices that you're making. And this helps you determine really if this is the doctor you want. So it's really good, like, from the very beginning when you're searching for a doctor, to go over your birth plan and your breastfeeding plan with that doctor, to get an idea of how that doctor feels. And even that doctor might even help you make some adjustments, being that the doctor knows what could possibly happen in the in that labor room, things that could happen without you realizing it, and then kind of help you add things to your plan based on emergencies or just things that come up last minute. Like, for instance, if you had to have a C-section last minute, or if the baby would have to go to the NICU last minute, or just things like that. So the doctors are there to help you create that plan, even for those situations that you might not be prepared for. So that's one of the best reasons to have a birth plan, a birth plan. And then it's also, because of those things, it's really good to have a breastfeeding plan, especially if you plan to breastfeed. So I'm going to give you some tips on what you should do, what should be in your breastfeeding plan. For first, the tips are going to first be at the hospital, what your plan is at the hospital and what to expect. And then we will go into once you get home in that first, week or so. So as I mentioned before, the first tip is to tell tell the hospital that you plan to breastfeed. You can do this ahead of time, but in most cases, you're not sure what nurse is going to be there. Sometimes you can let the nurse manager know, but even then, the best way to let the hospital know is right at admission. You can have something printed up. You can there's a lot online where you could just like copy and print up your own based on some of the ones that you see. But right at admission, and make sure that your husband or whoever's going to be with you can have that plan, in their hand as well. Because if for some reason you're not able to voice your desires, your wants, and your plan, then the person who's with you can do so. The next thing that you want to consider is, remember to try to breastfeed within the first hour, and you want the nurses and the doctor to know that. And most likely the nurses are the ones you're going to see the most. The doctor comes in and out. Tell the nurses right away. And then once you see your doctor, tell him right away, that you want to have the baby with you for 1 hour, and you want to allow that baby to nurse right away. It's always good at that point to do skin on skin, and there are a lot of hospitals that are baby friendly. And that's another good tip to research, is find out if your hospital is baby friendly. And what that means is, are they supporting breastfeeding, which means they don't give they don't give the baby pacifiers, and they allow you to do a lot of skin to skin and breastfeeding that first hour after the baby's born. A lot of things that will help initiate breastfeeding and help you to be more successful at breastfeeding. So look for a baby friendly hospital, and there's like for baby friendly, I want to say there's like five things that they require a hospital to have in order to be called a baby friendly hospital. So some of those things I'm going to talk about, but one of them is breastfeeding within the first hour, and also putting that baby skin to skin right away. And typically, if you get that baby skin to skin right after the baby's born, and you let that baby, breastfeed, lay him on your skin, and don't rush things, the baby will actually crawl and latch all by himself. So you don't have to do anything. Sometimes it can take like 20 minutes. Sometimes it could take an hour. It just kind of depends on labor, how long it was, how traumatic it might have been for the baby, if the baby's really tired, that sort of thing. But if you can, usually a good hour, is what you'll need. Some moms may need a little more than that, but I really believe 1 hour is, because a lot of it is, I would say 1 hour is kind of like the highest, but there could be even up to 2 hours depending on, what happens in labor. Another important point, and is also part of the baby friendly requirement, is that the baby receives no other supplement but your milk. So if for some reason the baby, you're not able to get that baby to the breast, they can express some of your colostrum and give it to the baby that way, usually through spoon feeding or cup feeding. And the only time that a baby would receive anything else besides your milk would be, some medical reason. If there's no medical reason for the baby to need it, then the baby should not be given anything. No formula, no water, nothing, just your milk. Another very, very important part, and again, another part of this baby-friendly requirement, is that the baby rooms in. They call it rooming in with mom. So there's literally no separation between you and the baby 24 hours a day unless medically necessary, which would mean sometimes they will take the baby to do, sometimes they'll take them to do like the sugar test, or they might want to, if you're having a, shoot, I forgot the word. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm talking about. I can't even think of the word. So if you were going to have some of those things done for the baby, and I know it will come to my head at some point. I cannot believe I can't remember it. Shoot. For boys, clipping. I can't think of the word. Anyway, so those type of things, if they, have to take the baby, they, then that's of course medically necessary, but trying to make sure the baby rooms in with you. And why is that important? That's important because that means that every time your baby makes any noise, you're going to hear it and you're going to put that baby to the breast, because you need, for a good milk supply, to ensure that good milk supply and to teach the baby and yourself practice. That's what you need, is practice. You're going to be able to do that with the baby in the room with you. If the baby's in the nursery, you don't get to hear the sounds, and you don't get to get that baby to your breast or do skin to skin as much when that baby's in the nursery. Now, I know when I was having my children, my sisters all had their kids before me. In fact, they were at their third by the time I started my first. And they used to say, just send the baby to the nursery, because once you go home, the baby's with you all the time. Just let them take them so that you can rest. And, this didn't really affect them too much. I mean, they breastfed my one sister breastfed for 2 years with each of her kids. So it didn't really seem to affect them. But in some cases it really can, because my other, let me just say my first one, it didn't really affect her, my one sister, but the other one struggled a little bit. But I mean, she eventually got it, and with her other children, she was able to breastfeed too. And I'm not sure if she did the rooming in, but I do know they always told me, send the baby at night to the nursery. So you do not want to do that. You want to try to keep the baby in with you as much 24 hours a day if possible, and only leave if it's medically necessary. And that, like I said, that's just so that you can know when the baby needs you. You hear every squeak and sound. That's really, really important. So those are some tips for at the hospital. And let me just add, when you're at the hospital, you have to try to remember that the best thing you can do in those 2 days is to breastfeed, 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 breastfeed. Practice as much as you can, because it's those first few days that determine that help build your milk supply for the later on months. So just remembering those things. Now some tips for at home. So just like I mentioned, feed early, feed often. Every 1 to 3 hours is normal for a baby to feed. In fact, 3 hours is really too long. Now, if a baby goes 3 hours but has been feeding like almost every hour, but then they get that hour, 3 hour long period, that's fine. But in reality, the breast milk is only in the baby's stomach for 90 minutes. So that's an hour and a half. So if a baby is sleeping longer than 2 hours, they're going to be really hungry when they wake up. And if they're still not good at breastfeeding, which most aren't, it's going to be really, really hard, because they're going to be really hungry and they're going to get very upset when they can't get that milk instantly. So feed early, feed often, and try to do between 1 and 2 hours versus 3. 6 diapers in 24 hours. So by day 6, you want to look for 6 diapers. 2 or 3 can be stool, and those 6 for the whole 24 hours. That is a good clue that you have enough milk. The baby is getting enough. Before that, it's like 5 diapers for 5 days, 4 diapers for 4 days old, 3 diapers for 3 day old. So basically, it's just like how old the baby is. But by 6 days and after, we're looking for 6 diapers in 24-hour period. So that's very, very important, because that's your clue to know whether or not the baby's eating enough, getting enough food. Also, always remember that your baby is getting colostrum until your milk increases, which is it can be between day 3 and 5, depending on if you've breastfed before, depending on C-section, any of those kinds of things. And again, no water, no formula, nothing is needed until that milk increases. Just continue to feed as often as possible, because like I said, those feedings are what determine how much milk you're going to get and how much milk is going to be able to store in your milk. So feed as often as you can. The next tip is that growth spurts start about day 10, and then they come every 2 weeks. So when the baby is extremely fussy, they pull at the breast, they're crying a lot, they seem like they're not getting enough, that's kind of them growing, and they're increasing your milk supply by the fact that they're sucking on a breast. And sucking on a breast empty is actually a good thing, because it tells your body we need more milk. So don't ever, give the baby water or formula just because of the baby's like sucking on this empty breast. No, because if you give that formula or water, then the baby's going to end up not adjusting its milk supply through the breast. So you do not want that to happen. Things will get easier by 4 to 6 weeks. You'll find that breastfeeding is starting to become easier for you and your baby. Also remember, good positions, a good latch, all those are very important to milk supply and sore nipples. So if you experience sore nipples or you're feeling like there's just not enough milk, contact your lactation consultant, contact the baby's doctor, contact peer counselors at WIC. Any of those things, people can help you determine. And again, you can always email me. You can comment below. I can help you as much as I can. That's what I'm here for. So that's it for the class today. I hope that is, gives you guys some type of resource plan that you can set up. And again, I'll try to put resources below that give you kind of like idea of how to plan your labor and your breastfeeding at the hospital and when you come home and that kind of thing. So you guys all have a great day. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.